It's a common belief that things today are not right. Okay, we've got a virus that's running around, running rampant, changing, doing all kinds of stuff. You know, people are getting vaccinations, people are not getting vaccinations. No matter what side of that debate you land on, the other side is wrong. We're hurting each other, we're destroying the environment, we seem to embrace hatred before we embrace love. And at the same time, we live in a perfect world, a perfect universe created by a perfect God. Our saying is whole, perfect, and complete, not whole, perfect, and completely wrong. So what gives? Why does everything seem so wrong? And how is everything actually perfect? Well, let's look at nature. And in nature, everything has its place. That's the beauty of nature. Irresistible purpose. And what I mean by that is that everything that exists seems to intrinsically know what it is and what it needs to do. It knows its purpose and it fulfills that purpose. Plants, animals, minerals, they all do exactly as they're designed to do, as they're meant to do. A tomato plant has all the information that it needs to grow within its seed. Everything that that plant needs to know to be a tomato plant is right there. And all of that information is readily available to the plant. So you plant a tomato seed, you're going to get a tomato plant, and that tomato plant is going to be perfectly happy producing tomatoes, doing what it does. The tomato plant is not going to suddenly start springing oranges. The tomato plant doesn't want to create oranges. The tomato plant doesn't even know what an orange is. It is fully and completely consumed by its own self and its own purpose. And that's something I kind of longed to be as a youth. I wanted to know what I was, who I was, and what I need to be doing. I wanted to know concrete, and I just figured that, yeah, that comes with age. I'll get older and then I'll know. But the ideas of what my personal purpose is have changed a million times since I was a youth. So if everything knows what it is, even down to the tiniest of things, even down to inanimate objects, a rock that's made of minerals, it's only concerned with being a rock and being the best rock that it can be. And the result is perfection, a perfect rock. So all things have an irresistible purpose that it is born with. And that purpose must be fulfilled. And that ensures the entire balance of the universe. If there are subatomic particles out there doing things that they shouldn't do, then the whole apple cart of existence is upset. So everything must do as it is purposed. So what about human beings? We burn a lot of energy trying to figure out what we're supposed to be, right? Using nature as a guide, it does make perfect sense. Each one of us has a purpose, but what is it? What are we meant to do? And we can build up a lot of stress around this question. And mainly the stress comes from the idea that we might not find what that is, and that our lives will be a waste. And then society helps out with the stress when we're told that there's something you need to find. There is one purpose for everyone. You need to find it. It's kind of like there's one love. There's one person out there that's going to love you. You need to find that one person. Society has a very narrow view. And we don't need to narrow our view like that when we're thinking about what our life's purpose is. And then when we throw God into the mix, that adds a whole nother layer of stress. Now, it's not only us that wants to find our purpose, it's God that is waiting for us to find our purpose. God has appointed us to do something. What is it? We must find it. So that's entirely fair question. But if we're asking, what does God want for us? What is God's purpose for us? We're making a couple of assumptions. We're making a couple of big assumptions. Assumption number one is that we aren't doing what God wants right now. And assumption number two is there's a possibility that we could fail to find exactly what God wants us to do. So let's first take apart these assumptions as we journey into finding our irresistible purpose. The first assumption, the first thing we need to do, and it's always good to start off this way, is just to define God. Put God out there, and so we all know what we're talking about when we're talking about God. And I've said it many times before, but I'll say it many times again, but God is the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving creator of all things. Infinite in its presence, infinite in its power, infinite in its perfection, and in its ability to create perfect things. So, simply put, the only thing that God cannot do is fail. God has an undefeated record. So this takes some of the pressure off. The idea that you're already doing what God has designed you to do. What is our irresistible purpose? Well, what are we doing right now? We're living. We're loving. We are creating. And we're doing these things from the time that we take our first breath to the time that we take our last breath. We are beings that live, love, and create. Now, you find me someone on this planet that isn't doing those things. Even when we're thinking we aren't creating, even when we're thinking that we aren't loving, even when we think we aren't living, we are still fulfilling God's irresistible purpose. So we can take that part out of the equation. Disappointing God, failing God, God failing us to provide us with a purpose. All of these things, we can take that all off the table. Because when it comes to God, we're doing what God has intended us to do. We're living, we're loving, we're creating nonstop. So that's one thing we don't have to worry about. We are doing what God wants. But now, of all of God's creations, all of God's creations, we are the only ones that can find meaning in anything. We are the only ones that can create anything. And we're the only ones that can do anything. That's why we're created. So if we establish that we're already doing as God wishes, then what? Well, what's our purpose? Well, in order to find that, we're going to use one of our greatest abilities, and that is our ability to love. Have you ever noticed that when you love something, you can see unlimited possibility in it? Our kids are a perfect example. You have a newborn child, and you're looking at that child and you're just thinking, the sky is the limit. This baby could do anything. Unlimited possibility. And that unlimited possibility is driven by our love. Our ability to see the possibility in another person is driven by love. Love of our children, love of our significant others. When I think of the possibilities for my wife, for example, if you're married or if you just have a significant other, if you love that other person, I love my wife, I back her 100%. I see nothing but wonderful things that she can do with her life. I know how wonderful she is. And so for me, it's not difficult to see possibility, endless possibility in her life, in what she can do right now and moving forward. That is how powerful love is. It extends our vision past what is here and into what could be. And this is what we need to apply, this unconditional love, this all-powerful love. This is the love that we need to apply to ourselves, to figure out, to see unlimited possibilities for ourselves. We need to look at ourselves with as much love as we do for our children. Wow, that's a stretch, huh? We need to look at ourselves with as much love as we do for our children. Don't we deserve it? Of course we do. Of course we do. That leads us to our homework, and our homework is going to be a little involved. So I'm kind of starting to describe it to you early. But we're going to start with loving the wonderful person that you are. Okay, so the first thing we need to do for our homework is to make a list. And on the top of that list can be titled, "Your name is a blessed creation of God." Right there on the title of the list, you. So if I'm making a list for myself, then I say, David is a blessed creation of God. So that's at the top of the list. So your name. The next thing on the list are 10 things about you. 10 wonderful, blessed things about you. Unique things about you. Of the multitude of wonderful things about you, I want you to select 10. And if you're having a problem coming up with 10 wonderful things about you, there's a few different things that you can do. One of those things you can do is talk to someone who loves you and ask them. Say, hey, I'm making a list of these things. I got some homework from church, and I'm making a list of wonderful things about me. Do you know anything that I can put on this list? And the person that loves you can't wait to tell you all the reasons that they love you. I guarantee you that. And they will help you to fill out this list. Your other option is, of course, talk to a practitioner. We're trained to see the perfection in you. We're trained to see the light that shines from you. that special light that shines only from you. A practitioner is trained to see that. And if you have a tough time rounding out your list of 10 things, 10 wonderful things about you, then talk to a practitioner and they can help you make that list. So now that you have a list, and I'm hoping that we can have these instructions dropped into the chat. Now that you have this list, post the list somewhere where you're going to see it several times a day. On your favorite mirror, near your desk, in your office where you work. You can put it up at work, but put it up someplace where you can see it several times a day, where you can read through it several times a day. And each time you do, recognize what you're reading as truth. This is very important. You must believe that you are wonderful. You must believe that you are valuable. You must believe that you're treasured because you are. So as you run down these lists, as you run down all of these things, these 10 things that are wonderful and true about you, read them and reinforce that truth. Reinforce it and believe it and accept it. You are all of these things and so much more. So do this for a week, right up until next Sunday. And every day, this one list, just keep it nearby and refer to it. And then on a separate sheet of paper, write down any insights that come to you as far as your purpose, as far as what you're meant to do, as far as possibilities you see for yourself. If it's something that you always wanted to do that now becomes a little bit more solidified, now that you're looking at this list and loving yourself, then write that down. If it's something that never occurred to you, in a million years, it just popped into your head, write it down. Any thoughts that you have about your potential, your future, your purpose, what you can do, what you want to do, write these things down and write them down knowing that all things are possible. A mistake that I make a lot is seeing something that I want to do, and I did this a lot as a youth. I see something that I wanted, something that I wanted to do, and the first thing that would pop into my mind is, David, that's ridiculous. There's no way you can do that. I wanted to sing for the longest time. I sang to myself, I sang in the shower. But the possibility of actually getting up in front of people and singing was not a possibility. I did not see that for myself. And because I didn't see it, it was impossible. Until someone I loved saw a possibility for me. And I started to see that possibility for myself. And so I did it. And heck, I'm still here. The ground didn't open up and swallow me up. None of the bad things that I thought would happen, happened. I took that love and I turned it on myself and I believed in myself. So that's how powerful love is. And it's not only powerful between two people, it is extremely powerful within yourself. Just working from self to self, love can create new possibilities. So there you have it. I'll recap the homework. Make a list. Get a sheet of paper. The top of the paper, you write down your name. You is a blessed creation of God. That is our first truth. And then after that, you write down 10 fantastic things about you. And of all the things, yes, you're going to have to narrow it down to 10. But write down 10 wonderful things about you. And also consult with loved ones. Consult with a practitioner if you're having a problem coming up with your list. And then put that list somewhere where you can see it, where you can find it, where you can refer to it several times a day. And each time you do, acknowledging the truth of the list. Acknowledging that first truth that you are a blessed creation of God. You are a blessed creation of God that is doing exactly what God has put you here to do. To live, to love, to create. And those next 10 things that are on the list, that's how you're doing it. That's how you're living. That's how you're loving. That's how you're creating. So please believe the truth. The truth of these wonderful things on the list. I have to work a lot to accept compliments. Okay, there's something about, our world, our society, me in particular, that has a hard time accepting compliments. And when somebody says something good about me, I kind of shudder a little bit. But I notice that shudder is denial. Somebody will come up to you and say, hey, you're great. And the first thing you'll think is, oh, well, thank you, but you don't know the truth. You obviously don't see how bad I am. You didn't see all those flaws and what I messed up and blah, 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 and then we argue against the blessing that someone is giving us. Those are blessings when someone tells you you're great. They're blessings right from the mouth of God. You are great. You can do anything. I posted a fun thing on Facebook, a fun question, and I got some interesting responses. I said, what is the age when you can do anything becomes you could have done anything? And the overwhelming response that I got from people is never. As long as we have blood coursing through our veins, air going in and out of our lungs, we have the potential to do anything that we believe we can do. And belief and potential and possibilities, all of that start with love. The love we have for ourselves. So what do you say? Want to give this a shot? The worst thing that we can do is just dwell on how wonderful we are and get closer to the truth of our blessing of irresistible purpose. So let's take that into prayer.